Election campaigning has come a long way over the decades, from billboards and placards to Twitter and Facebook. And the use of social media and modern technology is at an all-time high among candidates. University of Otago political analyst Geoffrey Miller joins us to talk about the effect that's having. Good evening, Geoffrey.
Good evening, Rebecca.
Tell us about some of the ways that candidates are campaigning.
Well, we see a whole lot of methods during an election campaign, from billboards to leaflet drops to door knocking to public meetings, and social media is kind of the latest way of trying to reach out to voters.
Is it just the tech savvy that are using social media?
No, I don't think so at all. In 2011, it was kind of the early adopters, and you had about 50 of 121 MPs on Twitter. But now you've got 100 and counting, Facebook even more so. You've got, with Facebook, about 2.2 million New Zealanders on there. With Twitter it's considerably less, about 200,000, but it's still a substantial share of the population. And I think with Facebook you see, this is a broad mainstream means of getting out to voters. Twitter's kind of more the opinion shapers, the elites, if you like, journalists, academics like myself, media people. They're on there, and the MPs are on there, and they talk amongst themselves, and that kind of sets the political agenda for the news that you see each night on TV.
What have the local candidates been doing on Twitter?
Well, Claire Curran has been described as the shadow minister of Twitter, and she's really big on there. She has about 5,000 followers on Twitter. David Clark, around about 2,000, and Michael Woodhouse, about 700, so considerably smaller. They use Twitter in various ways. They use Twitter to send out photos, for example, of their hoardings, and they're putting them out, talking to activists primarily on Twitter. Through Facebook it's a bit more mainstream, trying to get some of those core messages out there. Team Key is the hashtag for National. Labour's come out with For a Better New Zealand. The Greens have come out with Love New Zealand. And they're trying to use these hashtags on social media to get their message out there.
How is it impacting on their campaigns?
Well, that's a really good question, because one of the criticisms of social media is that it attracts mainly partisans in politics. So people who are already interested in politics, rather than new voters, which is what politicians are trying to do. They're trying to get out to voters. So there is an insider element to Twitter, certainly, and for Facebook as well. But in the end, it's another tool. It's another tool to engage voters and get your message out there, generate some buzz, whether it's with activists or voters at large. If you're not on there, people are going to be talking about you anyway, so better to be on there and influence that message.
Is it necessary to be on there?
I think you can't ignore it. It's become so mainstream now. Certainly Facebook, is almost second nature to a lot of New Zealanders, 2.2 million, particularly younger voters. So you can't ignore it, just like you can't ignore television, you can't ignore newspapers, you can't ignore public meetings, you can't ignore any of these ways of getting in touch with voters.
Are there any downsides to using social media?
Absolutely. I mean, there's always the possibility of mistakes, and in fact that's when we become most aware of social media like Twitter and Facebook with regards to politics. It's when you have mistakes like Jan Logie, a Green MP, she tweeted something that was a bit off colour in the House. You had David Cunliffe, he got in trouble for sending out a tweet on election day last year when there was a by-election in Christchurch against the rules. Judith Collins this year came to grief, and she actually logged off Twitter for a couple of months and disappeared because this blew up and that generated negative publicity. So think before you tweet should be the message that goes out to MPs when they're using social media.
Political analyst Geoffrey Miller, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.